Welcome back. Let us jump on to the next area, that is essays based on set books. I'll use Fathers of Nations for obvious reasons. It is the compulsory text. Was the compulsory text 2025. 2026, I know you'll be doing the Samaritan, but I'm going to connect it with the Samaritan very well. So stay on board. Don't miss out on that part. But because this is what was done 2025, it is important that we see how it was treated, how that question was treated. So Professor Kimani's challenges are evidence of the impact of failed leadership on citizens. Using examples from the text Fathers of Nations, write an essay in support of these statements. Notice, I have underlined Professor Kimani. Notice that for a very long time now, KNEC has been focusing on just one character, so that when you give your illustrations, you are supposed to just base on that one character. That is very good of them, because now you have a sharper focus on your characters and you are able to get a full, there's no need of you doing the whole book. In order to get answers to this question, candidates were supposed to ask themselves 3 questions. The first one, what are Professor Kimani's challenges? We see a Professor Kimani full of challenges. What are those challenges? Then number 2, which of those challenges are as a result of poor leadership from his government? And then number 3, how does he suffer? So we've said that KNEC wants us to deal with Kimani alone. When we meet Professor Kimani, the first challenge, the first time we encountered him, he was with Tony in a low-end restaurant, and he was complaining about the poor salary that professors are now receiving. When he began teaching, a professor earned way more than an MP, but now an MP rakes in 100% more than 100 times more than a professor. To add salt to the injury, that salary is not taxable. The likes of Professor Kimani are heavily taxed. What is the evidence? He cannot repair his car until he receives his salary at the end of the month. Tuni wants to use the car, he cannot. She cannot. He is not. The car is down again. Asia leaves him for an MP who is loaded with 4 cars. Then Tuni dies in a road accident because he was unable to fix their private car. Then the other challenge we see is that he has unmet expectations. It is almost same to poor salary, but here we are looking at his livelihood, his home. Now we want to look at professionally. He came to the University of Nairobi an enthusiastic person, but he ran out of steam. His expectations were unmet. So professionally, he stagnates. When he came, he made a lot of changes. Remember, he started some wars and won them actually. Eventually, he even won the heart of the campus queen, that was Asia. And he even got professorship so soon, as soon as he got married. So he was doing very well. Then he started to stagnate. We blame it on the bad leadership at the university. And not only that, remember, while they are at home, it is clear that the government is not taking care of its citizens who are paying taxes. They're heavily taxed, as we saw in the first point. But the government is not taking care of the security, and so people have resorted to making their own private arrangements. Professor Kimani is grumbling about those private arrangements, that why should we be paying taxes to cater for our security needs, yet the government does not provide that security when we need it badly. So he is disappointed, he is pessimistic, and the biggest blow comes when he is demoted by the university. And as he trudges, we'll see later that he is even jailed. So as he goes back home after the 6 months, after serving his 6-month jail term, he is putting foot after foot, sorrowfully. he has nothing. The only thing he can see is his career, and it is doomed beyond revival. There are many other things that you need to talk about, but that's for another day. Then we have insecurity. Guarding is gaining momentum. And we see that Tuni, the daughter of Professor Kimani, has attended a seminar on personal safety. And she's so interested in protection against male violence, and she talks about it enthusiastically because she knows that if their government cannot provide security, in fact, she tells the father, alongside Asiya, the mother, that if the government cannot provide security, then it becomes a personal arrangement. To the disappointment of Professor Kimani, we've already talked about that briefly. So that disappointment, that contempt that Professor Kimani has for his government for not providing services like security is the challenge come suffering. He is not happy with his government. It has let them down big time despite them having paid taxes. So that was a point on its own. Little did he know that his own daughter is going to die, that is Tuni's death, because of the same problem where the government is supposed to provide some services, but it fails to do so. In this case, it was supposed to provide the emergency services. Someone had called 999, Someone had called emergency services in order to save a girl, that is Tuni, who had been trapped in a car that had had an accident with a trailer. So the fact that we never saw emergency services arrive, in fact, the futile attempts by onlookers to save the girl, it is the hacking of that vehicle that made the roof cave in faster, and Tuni dies in accident. So Professor Kimani's challenge here is Tuni's death. The government comes in the sense that it fails to provide the emergency services, and people desperately try to save the girl, only to make matters worse. The mother and father were inconsolable. 6 months later, that is when they found closure. Then after Tuni's death, what followed was Asiya's desertion. Professor Kimani's wife leaves him for the MP that Professor Kimani loathes most. The link with government is Newborn Walomu, the MP. He has amassed wealth for himself. He has many wives. He is used to using and dumping women. He is extravagant in his office. He's doing nothing, but his office is lavish and expensively furnished. So to some extent, we see that people who are representatives of government are living lavish lives, while the likes of Professor Kimani are languishing in poverty. So for Newborn Walomu to snatch Professor Kimani's wife, that is Asiya, that is where now we say the government has failed, the leadership has failed Professor Kimani. The leadership has failed its citizens. Professor Kimani has contempt for Newborn Walomu because he was a junior colleague back at the university, and Asiya knows that too well. So it hurts him so bad when Asiya decides. In fact, it begins when Asiya tells him one time, when Tuni borrows the car and it's down again, it cannot be repaired, Asiya advises Professor Kimani, go for greener pastures, bwana. Walomu went for greener pastures, and now he's an MP with 4 cars. Then Professor Kimani dismissed her and told her that he can have all the wealth, he can live in mansions, he can be wherever he is with a lot of money, but he will remain a loser. that is the same man that now comes to haunt him by snatching his beloved wife after the death of the daughter. So Professor Kimani is deeply hurt by that move. We know what he does. He goes and fights Newborn Walomu, and he is arrested, jailed, and demoted. So all those suffering, that was the longest point, I think. Next, we have imprisonment. Imprisonment tied to Asia's desertion. It is Asia's desertion that makes him go ballistic on Newborn Walomu. When police came, the two men fought, but who is arrested? Professor Kimani for assaulting a member of parliament is written in italics, to mean that there's something fishy about that. Why did they choose to imprison Professor Kimani alone? The government let down Professor Kimani big time. And then lastly, we have demotion on the part of the university. Remember how he entered the University of Nairobi with a lot of enthusiasm. He changed a lot of things in the university. When he is demoted for causing the university embarrassment, for disgracing the university, it was unfair, it was uncalled for. He had already served the imprisonment. He had already been punished. So going back to the university as a senior lecturer was humiliating for him. And no wonder when Tad Longway proposes that he joins Path Alpha, it comes like a new beginning for him. So you can see that 2025, these questions, the answers to this question overlapped in paper 3 when you're writing your essay, even if you have to repeat the things that you've said in point 1 in order to give enough details for point 3. There's no problem. That point 1 is separate, point 3 is separate. So don't act as though point 3 can explain point 4. No. Each point must be treated independently. If you have to repeat the same detail again and again, go ahead and do so.